right, good evening. Oops, gotta turn my machine on. Good evening, everyone. Today is the time and place set for the regular October meeting of the Royal Oak Planning Commission. I will call the meeting to order and we'll start down at my right side if we can introduce ourselves for the record.
Ann Beakey.
Charlene Douglas, City Commissioner.
Kevin Twining, Director of Community Development.
Aaron Leal, City Attorney.
Eric Klooster.
Mike Fournier, Mayor.
Woody Gantino.
And I'm Gary Casada, I'm the chairperson. Before we proceed, does anybody want to add something to the agenda? All right, seeing none. The commission is probably aware we received an email from some folks who were before us earlier last month, and they had an issue, and they asked if we would consider it before we approve the meeting minutes. I'm inclined to do so, but I will look to my other commissioners. Does anybody object to that? Okay, no objections. So what we'll do is we'll have public comment now on non-agenda items. This is a non-agenda item, but anybody who wishes to speak on a non-agenda item may do so now. Please introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Tim Harlan. I live on Yorba Linda. My property abuts the Judson property. If you remember, those of you who were here last week or last month, we presented an issue about sidewalks leading from the current front of the buildings to Springer, to the public sidewalks on Springer. Those are there for only one purpose: to direct people that park on Springer into the front of the building. When we objected to that or asked that those be removed, the applicant, and I gave you the timing of the video, agreed that they would remove those. They further went on to discuss with Mr. Cantina that they would actually consider putting a small fence up as well as removing those sidewalks. We're asking that, although it was omitted, we never have the chance, right, as the public, to come back and say, wait, before you vote, there's one more thing. So it was omitted, easy enough to understand, but again, it's the easiest part of your job when the applicant and the neighbors can agree on something that was a dispute. When they can agree on it, I feel like it's almost your responsibility to make sure those things happen. That's the easiest part of your job.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing none. This is a little bit unusual of a request. The next order of business is to address the meeting minutes, approval of the meeting minutes, but I would suggest that we have a short discussion with our legal counsel about procedures. What we're being asked, I believe, is by this member of the public. They're saying, last month we were here. Last month, you guys heard, we had a full hearing on this site plan. One of the things that was discussed and agreed during the discussion did not get incorporated into the conditions, into the record, into the minutes, and they want to know if that can be addressed, altered, added, and I think that, to me, that sounds like a legal issue because it has to do with procedure and notice to be heard and due process. So I'm going to turn to Mr. Leal and ask him to give us some thoughts.
Just to clarify the issue, again, last month the Judson Center had proposed a special land use application as well as a site plan. I'm not disputing the representation that was made that certain sidewalks should be removed and that the applicant would have agreed. The motion that was made to approve the item did not incorporate that specific condition, and so the motion was made and seconded and voted upon without that condition. With that, the item more or less has concluded at last month's meeting, and I know that today you are making a ministerial decision to approve the meeting minutes of everything that occurred at the last minute, but the motion with the conditions that were with that, excluding the one that is being requested, was not part of that motion, which is what the gentleman who just spoke and the email that he received wants you to add that condition. Keep in mind that adding that condition, even if the applicant is amenable to it, that person is not here to come forward to actually represent and say, yes, I accept that, and they're, to be able to include that. So that is more or less the due process argument, that they're not here, they have not been provided notice and an opportunity to be heard as to whether they've agreed to that and wish to desire to put that in there. The other portion, which is not, it is in other states. I could not find any research in this state, but as you know, that this planning commission or cities are given their authority to zone property by the state, and that is through the Zoning Enabling Act that is codified in the Michigan compiled laws. The process in which you as a body hear those special land uses follows a set procedure that is set forth in state law. And so basically, when you go through that process, including the public hearing process, once you make your decision, what is very common in other states is that the matter has concluded and you have lost jurisdiction over that matter because the item has concluded. To regain jurisdiction, the applicant would need to request a modified application to include that condition, a new public hearing, follow the same process to get to the point where everybody would be satisfied with the outcome. So, but again, that isn't in Michigan law, but that is our state Zoning Enabling Act is very similar to other states, including the one that I came from before here. And that is a logical outcome, but again, it's not the law in the state, but that is an argument that could be raised if we were just added the condition today. So with that said, I know I've said quite a bit, but I just wanted you to, the main thrust is the applicant has not been provided any notice of this or the opportunity to come forward to agree to this. And so the one possible option to get there is to postpone adopting the meeting minutes for your next meeting. Call the applicant, have them come forward and agree to that. The other option is not a legal option. It would be something that Mr. Twing would probably recommend is for, does the site plan show that the sidewalk's removed, and is that what they propose? That is a different exercise that would not result in what we're doing here tonight, and that's whatever the applicant submits. I have not seen those plans as to the final plans, and so I would ask Mr. Twing, do those plans reflect the sidewalk being removed? And I apologize for not.
The plans that the Planning Commission considered clearly do include the sidewalk.
Right.
They haven't filed for building permits yet.
Okay.
So they really don't have a step in between where they would submit modified plans yet.
Okay.
Generally what occurs is after the Planning Commission action, the petitioner moves forward with their construction documents based on what you've approved, and that takes a considerable amount of time. Once those are put into place and submitted for building permits, we compare what you approved with your contingencies to those building plans. So I don't believe we've seen revised plans that would reflect any of these contingencies in the last month.
So that option is more of a delayed option. We do not know what exactly the petitioner in that application will present to the planning department and the building department as far as their construction documents. And the other is to delay adopting the meeting minutes, to contact the applicant and see what the applicant wishes or desires to do.
Just, you had a question?
Well, if I could add one thing procedurally too, not from a legal standpoint, but if the motion that's in the minutes reflects the action you took as a body, you should simply approve the minutes. If you want to reconsider that action at some point or rescind that action at some point, there's a whole separate process for that. But I would suggest that if the motion that's in the minutes reflects the action that you took a month ago, I would simply adopt the minutes.
Mr. Mayor.
And that's kind of the line I wanted to question. What about if the prevailing side, two members from the prevailing side were to reconsider the motion at the very next meeting, which this is the very next meeting, were to reconsider it, change it with that provision, and then vote on it again tonight, and then you would approve the minutes as they are, but then you would reconsider under Robert's rules the very next meeting. Is that something that's allowed under the, I mean, typically, I know we can do that for many other things.
Right.
You know, obviously with,
The complication is the fact that it's a zoning matter. And the motion for reconsideration would be proper. Mayor, I agree with you. The way that I've handled such a similar issue in the past on more than one occasion is on a motion reconsideration, that would undo the motion, but the application would start again. So in order to comply with the zoning side that I've mentioned, of course, in my previous state, that there was law requiring that type of action from a court decision. Here, we don't have that, so conceivably, we could proceed in that manner. But again, because it does impact a property, the property that belongs to the applicant, that applicant would have to be given notice and an opportunity to be heard as well. So it would be an expanded, at a minimum, not a public hearing, but a general agenda item for you to verify that and a new motion being made. Because once you reconsider and it adopts it, it suspends or basically undoes the action. And then the applicant would have to come back at a later meeting. So you'd have to notice it for next month for them to come back. You wouldn't do it at this meeting because the applicant is not here.
we would just reconsider, unwind it, and then say, fill out, reapply quickly for the next meeting. Yeah, I mean, that process I'm not as familiar with, but.
Yeah.
Well, a simpler option in my mind would be if you approve the minutes tonight, which I think we both would all agree that the action you've taken last month, I wasn't here obviously, so I'm kind of stepping into that. But the question is, in my mind is, if that's the action you take, you should approve the minutes. I'd be more than happy to have staff get hold of the applicant tomorrow, and if they voluntarily want to remove those sidewalks, they can simply remove them, and it's not an issue we can't deal with administratively. If they object to removing them and don't want to, then the question is that something this body would want to require?
And could we
And
do
if that's
that?
not something you want to require, then there's no further action necessary whatsoever.
I think my question is if, let's say that's the case, where, because I think that's a good idea if we believe that everybody's on the same page, right? That's the quickest and best thing. But if they come back and say, you know what, I changed my mind, I said one thing in the meeting, I thought about it, I don't want to move forward with removing the sidewalks, then are we in a position where it's done? Like, we can't, how do you reconsider something? Have you lost your shot because it's 2 meetings later? You know what I mean?
Well, and again, I think in between now and the reply from tomorrow, Mr. Leal and myself can get together and talk about what your options are if that's the case.
Okay.
You have a reconsideration, but you also have the ability to rescind under Robert's Rules of Order. And I don't want to speak for legal counsel to give you advice, but the options there are, have they taken any action to facilitate moving forward? They don't have a building permit. They don't have certain things.
Gotcha.
So I think we'll make the inquiry tomorrow and see if they want to voluntarily do it. Put them on record for voluntarily doing it, email something. If they object, then we'll get you some sort of communication for your next meeting.
Sorry.
But I don't think your option moving forward would be to change the minutes based on something you already did.
Right. The minutes are the minutes.
Ms. Beaky.
A couple comments, though. First of all, our minutes are such that they don't actually include all of the dialogue, though, that takes place. I mean, the video recording has more extensive comments, and the dialogue that the neighbors are talking about was documented. And again, sort of to the point of the public participation information that I was bringing up last time, again, not about changing this legal procedure, but thinking more holistically about the process by which we get citizen input on some of these things so that it's not just in that legal meeting, because it's often hard to articulate then a motion that really captures everything that takes place. So I'm very supportive of the idea, having heard the dialogue and thinking that they would be responsive to trying to sort this out so that maybe the sidewalks could be removed and consistent with what the dialogue was during the meeting last time. With regards to approving the minutes or not, I wouldn't mind putting even attaching this memo to the minutes or something to articulate some of that dialogue, because again, it's not captured in writing, but it is, or maybe we can just say this on video.
I clearly want to state, as I have in the past, dialogue at a meeting isn't part of the record. It's simply dialogue. If you want a condition added into the motion as a requirement, you need to articulate, put that in the motion. Simply because everybody nods their head and agrees, oh, this might be a good idea, is a meaningless exercise, and it doesn't hold any weight.
And I deeply appreciate that as far as, again, the procedural process, and that is, again, why I'm suggesting in some other forum we talk about how, when there's a lot of dialogue about an issue that might be resolved besides a vote at, that there may be another step in the process to facilitate that. But again, without amending state law and all of that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gantina.
So, excuse me. I agree and sort of understand the complexity around simply changing things. I think I'm on board with the plan we have going forward. I was going to ask that question about whether we have the opportunity to simply ask the applicant if that's something that they would consider. Sounds like we can. I would think that they would be amenable to it because, at least from the sidewalks perspective, it's a deductive change for them. It's a cost-saving change. The other part of the motion or notion, though, was for them to add additional landscape screening. I don't think I would necessarily want to go back to ask them to do that. Because if it was something that we had dialogue around, to answer the question that you just brought up, I think we just need to try to do a better job as the board to capture any meaningful dialogue that we have that needs to make it into a condition to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. It sounds like, generally speaking, it was something that just got missed. We had a discussion around it. Applicant agreed, we all agreed, it just somehow didn't make it into the motion or the minutes. So I'm on board with the easiest path. I don't imagine that they would be resistive, but I guess we'll find out. So.
All right, I would say my comment is that conceptually, and for the benefit of the public there, this is not just, what's being asked is not just correcting an error. It's not like somebody's name was spelled wrong. There's a substantive provision in the conditions. So because of that, we really need to give an opportunity for the petitioner to be heard, and it sounds like it's quite a heavy lift to do that, to get him back and make him pay for it. Well, that doesn't seem fair either. I would say that one of the things I wanted to respond to Mr. Gantina is I think the reason it didn't end up in the conditions is because it was so readily agreed to, and the petitioner seemed so comfortable with it, it just sort of dropped off. We didn't talk about it anymore. So given that, I would hope when the petitioner is contacted by the department that they will have that same attitude. I hope they would. Certainly they're on record in the public of saying so. So hopefully we don't need to go through a formal process. But yes, I would agree in the future we need to try to be careful about that, because once it's voted on, that's what you get. So I would myself be in favor of approving the minutes, letting the department do their contact and see what happens.
And then if they refuse, then bring it back, right?
That would be something for us to consider. Okay, so is that something that we do need to take a vote on, because we have to vote to approve the minutes? So, is there any other discussion of the meeting minutes that are before us? Is there? Commissioner Douglas.
I move approval of the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gantina. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, typically I wouldn't abstain, but on this one, given the complexity of it and me not being present, being out of town for work, I'm going to abstain on this one for that reason.
So noted. All right, so I'll call for the voice vote. All in favor say aye to approve the minutes?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved.
Any abstentions?
Well, I think the abstention is already on the record.
Oh, okay.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the first order of new business. That is a public hearing, the special land use, SB 22-10-17. Mr. Twing, can you give us a preview?
Certainly. What you have in front of you is a proposal. The site itself is located, as you indicated, on Edgeland, which is north of Normandy, east of Coolidge. The parcel itself backs up to the Grand Trunk Western Railroad tracks. It is zoned general industrial. The petitioner is proposing to convert or modify a portion of the building, the existing building, approximately 2,250 square feet, into an auto repair garage. As I indicated, the site is zoned general industrial. In that district, auto repair garages are considered a special land use. That's the reason it's in front of you this evening, with a public hearing and a special land use request. Other than the modifications to the interior of the building and the area for the auto garage, there doesn't appear to be significant modifications. They are not proposing revisions to the exterior of the site. The site does have landscaping along the Edgeland Avenue area. If you are comfortable with that, then the landscape provisions would be considered complied with. They do comply with the parking requirements based on the proposed floor plan, so there's not any issue with the number of parking spaces and the proposed use. Basically, there's not a site issue that the staff is recommending that you consider or evaluate other than those two. The site plan memo is also attached. One of the determinations the Planning Commission makes is the site adequate in terms of lot area and frontage to support the auto repair garage. If you make that determination under the request, then you fulfilled that. And then the second one is really to maintain compliance with the contingencies that were required as part of a zoning board of appeals action when the auto dealership went in, and those are listed under prior or previous actions, if you're curious what those were. And then a determination that the landscaping is, and existing landscaping and screening is adequate. All the rest of the contingencies in the site plan memo are standard contingencies.
All right, any questions for Mr. Twing? All right, hearing none, I'd like to call the petitioner up to the podium and present us your project. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Jeffrey Poe on behalf of the petitioner, James Creighton, who is the managing member of M1 Imports, who's the petitioner in this matter. I think Mr. Creighton can adequately describe what his business plan is here and the use of the building. It doesn't require much change in anything in here. We've got screening issues that were raised in the report, but I would like the commission to note the very few buildings, the very low traffic use. There's no foot traffic through there, and this area is actually well secluded as Royal Oak goes. Edgeland Drive is very short. Well, I think we counted like there were 5 other businesses there. So we would ask that the Planning Commission waive any further issues regarding any screening. James?
Well, this is, thank you for having me, first of all. This has been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. I've worked in Royal Oak for the past 20 years. I was the head technician at Carl Heinz Auto Center. And we're looking to maintain the same type of business, just move the location here since the other facility closed down. I just will do the same that I did there, is treat everybody, like family, and keep all the business in Royal Oak that I can.
All right, are there questions for the petitioner? Mr. Klooster?
Will there be any storage of vehicles on the open parking lot, waiting for repair?
Only the vehicles that we would have there for repair. I mean, I will have some cars parked there at all times. I can only fix so many at a time, so yes, there will be some outside.
Other questions? I have one. So I looked at this, and do I understand correctly that the entire scope of this is to take the very north end of this semi-triangular building, and instead of just having cars there, you're going to work on the cars there?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. I've been out to the site. I don't think the screening's an issue. The cars, if they were parked facing out of the parking lot, on one side it's the railroad track, and on the other side it's a side of a building with no windows in it. There's plenty of landscaping, there's plenty of lawn, there's plenty of trees. So myself, I'm very comfortable with the landscaping. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, you can sit down and we'll bring it back to the side of the table. Mr. Twing?
Hearing, you gotta open.
Oh, public hearing, yes. Is anybody from the public here who would like to speak on this issue? Would you like to speak on this issue? Yes.
You.
You.
It's you, Alan.
It's you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Alan Kroll. I'm wearing 3 different hats tonight. So I am chairman of the board of the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce. Should Mr. Creighton be successful tonight, he's our newest member. So I'm always, the second hat is my company's Interiors Unlimited. And I have, excuse me, I have consulted, been a design consultant to Mr. Creighton on this project. And third, and probably the biggest reason I'm here is because the love of my life was a 2004 Mercedes 500 SL, which Mr. Creighton keeps moving for me. Towing that to Roseville would be much more expensive. And I don't know if you know the whole story of Mr. Creighton, but he was really Karl Heinz for as long as I've known the organization. They have historically been the repairers of German automobiles. There was a time they did Porsche, Audi, BMWs, and Mercedes, and really today they do mostly just Mercedes and a little BMW. So even if there are cars outside, he's not planning on working on anything older than a 2000. So there won't be rusted out eyesores by any means. I have spent quite a bit of time at the facility. I don't know who this would be bothering. It seems like a perfect application to do just about anything there, really, because it is very private. You've got the railroad tracks behind it, so it seems like a great application. I would ask that you approve this request. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else in the public would like to speak on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the side of the table. If there are further questions for the petitioner, Mr. Twing, or discussion, or a motion. And we're on this, we have 2. We have the special land use first, so that would be the first item. Mr. Klooster.
I will move to approve the special land use.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Beakey. Is there further discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for the vote. I think we'll do this by vote again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. All right, the motion is carried unanimously. Congratulations on the special land use. Moving on to the site plan. Is there any commentary, questions on this part of the petition? All right, is there a motion? Commissioner Douglas.
I'll move approval of the site plan.
And second by Mr. Gantina. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Douglas.
I mean, just that, only because this is a special land use in this zoning district, is this even in front of us? I mean, under any other circumstances, this would be an administrative approval. It's very routine.
All right, thank you. All right, any other discussion? If we're ready for the vote, I'll call for a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Congratulations, good luck to you.
Good luck.
Keep them rolling.
One member closer to my goal now.
Nice job, Alan. You look good, by the way.
As do you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a sign variance, SB 22-10-05. Mr. Twing.
This site is at the corner of Woodward and 12 Mile, existing gas station. It is in sign area 2. In that area, the sign ordinance allows you to, the petitioner or site to have one freestanding sign with a maximum height of 16 feet and 42 square feet in sign area. Filling stations are also allowed to have a price sign of 25 square feet. The proposed sign at the auto station, the total would be allowed to be with 67 square feet. The petitioner is proposing to exceed that by 2.9 square feet with a new sign for the facility. We did point out that in 2018, the Planning Commission did deny a sign variance at this site for refacing at the same location, and the sign was installed pursuant to sign ordinance requirements.
All right. Any questions from Mr. Twing before we proceed? Ms. Beakey.
Just one quick point of clarification. The sign that was denied was a larger sign than the one got put in, and the one that got put in was in compliance. Is that correct? So the one that's standing, the green one that is currently in compliance, correct?
Yeah, the one that got put in was in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions from Mr. Twing? Is it a question or a thumb? That's a thumb. Okay. All right. Is the petitioner present? Please introduce yourself and give us your presentation. Explain why you are entitled to this relief.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Glover. I'm from Aver Sign Company. I really don't have a hardship, but the Bay Dunes have asked me to come here and represent for them. And Hassan Beydoun would like me to bring to attention to the board that they feel that the 16-inch digits that we're proposing on the sign are much safer for that area, because although the speed limit on Woodward is 45, most people go a lot faster. The larger the digits, the better visibility, the less likely of somebody just to dead stop in front of the gas station and try to get into there. The other thing that they had wanted me to point out is the sign, the square footage of what we submitted of 69.92 square feet. If you remove what they call the dead space on the sign, which is the solid background color, we actually come up with 63.04 square feet, which gives us 3.96 square feet under the allowance. And that's what I'm bringing here today. Thank you.
All right, I have a quick question there. I'm not sure I understand. I heard that, this is not a refacing then? You're creating a new frame or something?
No. They would be refacing the existing structure that's there. But with what was submitted for 69.92 square feet is what we submitted, which is 2.92 square feet over what's allowed. If you take the actual dimensions of the signage, which is the triangle, the sit-go, the regular unleaded, the credit unleaded, the words, the signage, we come up with 63.04 square feet by removing the white background, not taking the full cabinet size into consideration for square footage, and just the signage itself.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand that because I'm
I
going to
have
have
paper I
to
can
pivot
bring
back
up,
to
yeah.
Mr. Twing here. So there's a frame and there's a face, and if the current sign is compliant and they're not changing the frame, which I think I just heard, how can the sign be bigger? Has the sign gained?
Well, I'm going to
Square
simply
footage?
go based on the records from the building department that the sign measurements are changing.
Oh, you believe the sign measurements are changing?
Well, I can only go based on what the records show.
All right, then let me just get, and just, again, for the record, Mr. Twing, when we measure the sign, we go by the outside, we make a box. We don't go around the triangle for Sitco. We make a box around the whole sign, right?
That's correct. That's what the sign ordinance requires to measure it. They don't deduct for background space.
All right, and I just want to get from the petitioner very clear, is the existing frame staying in place?
I'm going to read my paperwork. Give me a moment, please.
Before she looks at that, can I make a,
Yes, please.
just a related, an unrelated comment, but related to the speed on Woodward and that I mentioned before. Again, this is another reinforcement about our consideration as the clock ticks towards MDOT redoing it. I cannot make this comment.
Well, and I would only point out again from the deputy building official, if you read his letter in the packet, it's the application to install a new sign box. So I'm going based on what
I think I
I
wrote
guess
reface
what's
on my
being
paperwork.
submitted.
The digits are larger on what we're proposing to put in there, which would take the square footage out of what is currently there. But I'm pretty sure we're going for just a reface. Because, they can't get a new sign there.
And just for the record, I'm going to just pick up on what Mr. Twing said, and I apologize. I looked right past that. The words say to install a new sign box on an existing pole. So the pole is existing, the box proposed is new from what this report says from Mr. Duhanich.
Yeah, I apologize to the board. It was originally supposed to be a reface, and then it was denied, so then here we are hoping that they can get a new sign. I apologize.
Okay, I guess...
So it would be a new cabinet on the existing pole.
Mr. Gantina.
I think I'm understanding what's happening. You just said something about a reface that was proposed in the past that did not get approved, apparently. But I'm not inclined to support this, only from the standpoint of if they are essentially making a whole new sign box, I simply don't see why that can't be made to the dimensions that are in compliance. If it was a reface, that's a different discussion. The notion of not including the background is completely, has no relevance to me in the sense that the ordinance pretty clearly states how the square footage is measured. So, yeah, I'm not inclined to support this.
All right, other comments? Ms. Beakey.
I would be in the same situation that I'm not inclined to support it because, again, we should not be accommodating speeds over the speed limit on Woodward, which already has a speed limit that's too high. By adjusting our signs, it's rather we have to adjust the behavior on the street, which relates to its design and such. And again, it's such a small margin, this 2.9 under 3 feet, that I think a simple redesign of the sign, if it's being constructed from scratch, should be able to come well within our parameters, within our current regulations.
Yeah.
Commissioner Douglas.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleagues here. I think we're talking about less than 3 square feet. You know, when you're designing a sign, I mean, proportions, you wind up like just needing to do something just to make this, square work with that rectangle. Let's be business friendly here and not quibble over something less than 3 square feet.
All right, I will just point out that Mr. Twing pointed out the drawings is the existing square foot area is 55 and the proposed is 69, almost 70. So that's that's like almost a 15-foot difference according to the proposal submitted by the petitioner. That's from the petitioner. That's not our document. And that's presented at the end of Mr. Donage's letter there. I also have a question for Mr. Twing. So I remember that for the VFW hall, they came in and they wanted a sign on the side of the wall, and we said, hey, wait a minute, you've got a non-conforming sign on the north side of the building, and we had to address that issue, and we had to give a variance. My question is, when there's a sign variance and there's a non-conformance on the property, is it only other signs that we deal with? What about other non-conformances that exist on the property? In this case, lighting. This happens to be the station that I brought up at some point months ago when they redid their lighting, and I said, hey, that's too bright. Is this a proper form to even address that?
I would say no. The sign ordinance is a standalone ordinance. It's not part of the zoning ordinance. It's not a land use issue. In that sense, it's a separate ordinance.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, any other comments, questions for the petitioner, questions for Mr. Twing, or motion? Okay, well, I want to address Commissioner Douglas' comment. I made this statement before, there's a lot of weighing going on. 2.9 is a very small number for a sign, and we have other gas station signs who came in and we gave them a small variance. And here, I have to admit, I am a bit mystified why the sign is not compliant, because it would be easy to do, and we don't want to encourage that. And I guess I'm still looking for an explanation from the petitioner why in the world it can't be designed to be compliant. But if it was truly something that there was a reason that it needed to be this small amount larger, I would also feel that the business-friendly thing to do would be to say, sure, that's a small ask. But I do have to say I am mystified at why the sign is the size it is instead of compliant. Mr. Klooster.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to deny the variance.
Is there a second?
I support.
Support by Ms. Beatty. So there is a motion to deny the variance. Is there further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. I think we probably want to do this one at a time. So, Ms. Beakey, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Douglas?
No.
Mr. Klooster?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
And I will be a yes also. So the motion passes. Petition is denied.
Okay.
Thank you very
for your
much.
time, everyone.
All right. Next order of business is rescheduling our regular meetings because there's an election next month, apparently. Okay, so the suggestion here from the department is to move it 1 week to the 15th of November. Do we have a discussion? Do we need to vote on that, or just?
Yes.
We do, okay. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Mayor?
There's a high likelihood that I won't be able to attend that meeting.
All right. Is there a high likelihood there's going to be another commissioner by then?
That there's an election.
No, it's not for the election. It's, I have a business travel I booked.
No, but the question is, there's only 6 of us.
Oh.
Somebody at this table can appoint a new person, and that would make it less of an impact if you weren't here.
It's been a month.
I just wonder if that's in the works.
Yeah, it's, I'm looking at applications right now. There were a couple people that I thought would be great to consider, and I'm giving them a little bit of grace to talk it over with their spouses and put in their applications just to give them a fair shake. So maybe by next city commission meeting, which would mean by the next meeting, we'll have a pick. So,
All right.
I do have a short list.
Okay, very good. I was just wondering. And I guess I would ask, you're just putting us on notice that you probably won't be here. Are you suggesting that we move it another week?
I'm just giving you that information. If you I don't want to be the guy that disrupts everybody, but just, didn't want to make everyone think I'm playing hooky. I guess I didn't even consider that we needed to do this, because I look at my calendar and I'm like, I put in the second Tuesday of everything, and then when I plan my business, I'm like, oh, I'm free. So there's a chance I could be here. There's a chance I may not. We'll have to see.
Very good.
I guess the question, if anyone else already has a known, I'm sorry. If anyone else has a known conflict, but also because the following week it becomes Thanksgiving week, so that probably gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
Unless we can have it a week earlier, but I think that's probably not logical either, so, anyway.
Yeah, the only issue with having it earlier might run into whether we have a public hearing and whether we can get notice out. But your other options are to cancel it. And we'll move anybody that applies to December.
What have you got so far?
Just one item.
Cancel.
Cancel?
Well, okay.
Would they have then to the 15th?
Just a request from the restaurant on 5th Street that wants to modify their site plan.
So I would say typically when do you stop accepting applications that would go on the November agenda?
It was it'd either be this week or it's generally almost 6 weeks prior to the meeting, so I'm not anticipating a lot.
So it's relatively certain that one item would be the item that we'd have to move.
The only other thing would be whether the master plan consultant wants to have a discussion with you at that meeting or a subsequent one.
Is that moving
Yeah, well,
forward?
what's up with that?
We're having a virtual meeting with them on Monday to start talking about what they need.
Signed a contract?
Yeah, the contract signed.
Good.
That's all ready to go, so it's just have a kickoff. What do they need from us?
Great.
That kind of thing.
I don't know, I was just gonna say, if no one else has a conflict, I would propose we just move it to the 15th, and, I mean, I was gonna actually miss the 8th, so, so I'm actually back in the country for the 15th.
We just swap around.
I myself, we talk about being, just to follow up with the business friendly, we don't have an idea whether the petitioner, if they have a need to be heard on the 15th in November, they may have a schedule that this is critical to them. So I'm a little hesitant to just adjourn it without knowing.
Without putting it out there, the restaurant's already done what they modified their restaurant configuration already, and they're coming through because they've been cited with violations.
Oh, okay. So it's not going to matter.
That changes everything.
Right?
Okay, all right. Well, if that's the only thing on the agenda, but we won't know for a while if that's the only thing on the agenda.
Well, generally, the other things we would add would be sign appeals, things that we can add last minute without a problem.
All right, then, so I guess the proposals that we're kicking around here are to move it to the 15th or adjourn it and come back the second Tuesday of December. That's what we're talking about. Or Mr. Leal might have something to suggest here.
You said the cutoff deadline's like 6 weeks?
Yeah, I want to say it's probably passed.
Okay.
Other than things we just...
So you're going to say if no further applications, the motion would be if no further applications come in by the deadline, then the meeting will be held in December. If there are, then it stays on the 15th. You can make a motion that way. That gives you some certainty that there may be one next month, but if there's no further applications, then it automatically kicks to December.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think there was one discussion point earlier tonight that in the unlikely event that there's some sort of protest or misunderstanding from the previous meeting that, that meeting may need to be used to remedy the situation. So I think the idea that, in the event that, make it conditional and that you have the meeting, but it will be adjourned by a certain period of time if no other applications for stuff are received. That's what I would consider.
Okay, is that a motion?
I mean, since I'm missing the meeting, I don't want to be the one to make the motion. That just looks...
Commissioner Douglas.
Yes, I move that we move the November 8th meeting to the 15th. And I don't think we need to articulate the potential for it to be canceled. Staff has the ability to cancel meetings as necessary, right?
Yep.
So that is my motion.
I second.
Second by Ms. Beakey. Is there further discussion? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. The regularly scheduled meeting for November is moved from the 8th to the 15th.
I already put it in my calendar.
Okay, next item on the agenda is also scheduling for religious holidays for 2023. And Mr. Twing, you're going to have to explain what we got to do here.
Actually, what you're voting on is your meeting schedule for 2023 every month. We simply go through the holiday and religious holiday list to give you an indication of any potential conflicts so that you can make adjustments. But if you're comfortable with the normal second Tuesday at 7 o'clock, you can simply adopt a resolution at the bottom of the cover memo.
All right, and the list that you've got here on page 1 shows these are in fact
those are conflicts.
Those are events that happen on our scheduled meeting dates.
Correct.
All right. Any discussion of this? Or a motion? Just for the record, we're talking Valentine's Day, Passover Day 7, St. Benedict's Day, a possible election date, Hanukkah Day 5, and the Feast Day of Our Lady of Guadalupe are all on dates in which we would also have a meeting. Mr. Mayor.
I can't think of a better date than this crew to spend Valentine's Day with. So.
Actually, why? Because it gets you off the hook?
Saving money. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Is there further discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution listed in the memo.
All right.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gantina. Is there any additional discussion of this motion?
I
Okay.
didn't need it.
Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. We'll go by voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The schedule is adopted. I guess we're on all the regular Tuesdays. And then the next item on the agenda is our Southfield neighbors. Mr. Twain.
That's simply a requirement that you, as a planning commission, get notification of adjacent or other communities' facts that they're moving forward with master plans. So there's no action necessary.
It's information.
Yep.
All right.
I'll tell Sarah that there's a new commission chair.
Yeah. Still have Ann on there.
Yeah.
Southfield's, their meeting is November 8th, so it's possible to attend if anyone wants to. I did read through quite a bit of it and appreciated some of the stuff they had in there, including what is MobiCon's Mobility Donut, and talking about transit access and mobility and such. Anyway, last time Ferndale's was later. We got it after the fact, so I was just mentioning that the hearing is coming up.
All right. Thank you. All right. We've come to the end of the regular agenda. Is there anything that any of the commissioners or staff would like to put on the record or state? Ms. Bickey.
Just one thing, I just noticed that the Royal Oak Parks Master Plan draft is being circulated and went to the Parks Commission, and so it's online if anybody wants to look at that. And I guess we have our master plan consultants, right, Tim? Also. Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, then is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right,
Support.
okay, very good. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speed record.